This is the European edition of Breaking Banks, the world's #1 fintech podcast and radio show. We bring you the European unicorns, startups, founders, regulators, and leaders innovating the rapidly evolving fintech scene today. A truly localized podcast with both English and local language content, with some of the world's most well-known hosts and influencers in the fintech sector globally. Join us every week as we explore what makes the European Union a phenomenal proving ground for many of the fastest growing fintech plays in the world today. Okay, let's roll.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Breaking Banks Europe. Today, we bring you episode 121, and we're back with another ecosystem zoom in. And today, we are focusing on Bulgaria. So this is our first time in the Balkan region. I was actually recently in Sofia about a month ago. I absolutely love Bulgaria. I think Sofia is such a cool city. There's a lot happening there. It's I think a very kind of special and unique place to be at the moment. And today I'm joined with three innovators in the region. So I'm joined with Max Gurvits, the chief host at Summit and partner at Vitosha Venture Partners. Hristo Borisov, co-founder and CEO of Payhawk, one of, or I think the first unicorn coming out of the Bulgarian fintech scene. And my good friend, Valentin Savov, partner at Savov&Partners, also co-founder at vendofin.com. So let's kick things off. Hristo, who are you? Tell us a bit about Payhawk and maybe like your favorite kind of thing about being in the Bulgarian fintech scene.
So thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. So yes, my name is Hristo Borisov. I'm co-founder and CEO of Payhawk. We just recently became the first Bulgarian unicorn by closing an extension round of Series B of $100 million US led by Lightspeed Ventures. So about myself, I have been, in the, let's say, software market in Bulgaria for the last 15 years. Initially started my career in a company called Telerik in 2007, which was kind of the first really big successful exit of a product company out of Bulgaria that was acquired in 2014 by Progress Software for 265 million. And out of that company, we have now more than 40 different founders spinning up their own businesses. With my co-founders, we are all from Telerik. So we decided that we are going to build the next big thing in Bulgaria. And we decided that if we're going to be building something, at least, let's at least focus to be big. And to do that, we said, let's just focus on building a solution that's going to solve a big problem in a big market so that we can become a big company. So that's kind of in a nutshell. We are currently growing from about 125 employees now to about 310 by the end of the year. And we currently have offices in Sofia, where all of our engineering team are, London, Berlin, Barcelona. We are opening Paris next week and Amsterdam in May.
Cool. So truly European. In a nutshell, what does Payhawk do? What's the big problem that you're solving?
So we focused on building enterprise-grade company cards. We really help businesses manage their spend and payments in a completely different way. We also help them automate everything related to company card spend, subscription, bill payments, reimbursing employees. So everything that is around spend management is fully automated within our system. That everything is directly integrated with the ERP system of the finance team so that they can manage everything in a much more efficient way. One of the key things that we do is that we are allowing companies to build any card that they want. So the finance team can build a card that only works at a certain time, time of the day for certain merchant for certain amounts, and they have very strong visibility. So what happens is that businesses using Payhawk, they typically issue about 10 times more cards than they used to have with their banks because they just have much finer grain level of control and they don't have any kind of admin work on chasing paper, dealing with reconciliation, and dealing with subscriptions. So that's in a nutshell. Behind the scenes, we are a full new bank, so we provide our customers with their own IBAN accounts. They can do SEPA payments out of the bank accounts, faster payments in the UK, BISER in Bulgaria, and use our cards across 30 countries. So usually our customers are companies that are multinational, those that are let's say have offices in more than one location. We currently have customers from 30 countries. So having a truly pan-European product is really a big part of our value proposition because at the end of the day, when you look at the problem of managing company cards in a single market, you might have some solutions here and there, even though not with the level of automation you can get from Payhawk. But scaling that problem of having a company that has businesses across 4, 5, 6 regions, then this really becomes a really big problem to solve.
Got you. Okay, thank you. So yeah, definitely solving a big problem. And yeah, I've looked at Payhawk in the past, and I think it's definitely one of the leading solutions in the space. So my last question before I move on to Valentin, what's your favorite thing about the Bulgarian fintech and tech ecosystem at the moment?
Well, I think my favorite thing is that we are extremely open. So everybody's trying to be collaborating and providing as much as knowledge to everybody else. So for example, with Payhawk, over the years, we have raised about 240 million US dollars so far out of 12 funds. And to do that, we met with about 100 funds. So we already have the contacts with a lot of them. A lot of them are now screaming and crying why they didn't invest it, 3 years ago when they had an opportunity. And having that relationship is really strong. And we're trying to actually provide these contacts to many of the starting companies in the region. Also, the other thing is also sharing knowledge about key partners and key players within the fintech space that are really essential so that at the end of the day, when you're building a financial services product, it is not an isolated product that you just built somewhere. You need to rely on very strong partners globally to be able to deliver it. So having this kind of a very tight collaboration is something that I'm really excited about the Bulgarian ecosystem.
Cool. Great. Thank you. And Valentin, thanks so much for joining us. Tell us all about you, kind of your involvement in the Bulgarian tech and fintech ecosystem.
Hello to everyone. My name is Valentin Savov and I'm a lawyer, and I have worked and I have gained experience in working for international law firms in Sofia, in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and in Tokyo, Japan. Then already for more than 6 years, we have created our own law firm, Savov&Partners. I have a special interest in fintech, in first place professionally, because I really like the industry and we are building a very special expertise in this area. And I have a special interest also as an investor. And I also have participations and have been a founder of several fintech companies. So I have also this special interest there. Our law firm, Savov&Partners, is involved in structuring, helping the individuals and companies to realize their ideas. In a world which is very regulated, and we provide the legal instruments for the technology transfer for all these great ideas actually to be marketed, to be structured, so they can be successful and they can grow and they can be multiplicated in different jurisdictions.
What would you say is kind of the most vibrant aspect of the kind of tech and fintech scene in Bulgaria?
I mean, what I'm really excited about the fintech segment in Bulgaria are the the limitless opportunities for growth. And all the people that are involved there, all the great ideas and the great companies, the great individuals, I think really the opportunities are countless. That's what excites me a lot.
Nice. Okay, thank you, Valentin. And last but not least, Max, very early where you are on the west coast of the US, but tell us a bit about yourself, a bit more about Vitosha Venture Partners, and I guess kind of maybe your perspective on where the Bulgarian kind of ecosystem is in terms of its growth. What's the trajectory been like?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Meaghan. It's my pleasure to be on the show. It's never too early to join fun people on a fun talk. So my name is Max. I'm a partner of an investment fund based in Sofia called Vitosha Venture Partners. One of the many funds operating in Bulgaria, and that's something that I think sets us apart. Something that I'm personally very proud of. I've been at this with this fund. I've been working now for a few years. We've launched it. We've started raising this fund about 5 years ago now, and we've been operational for almost 2. We have a very broad mandate. We invest quite early stage in about 100 plus companies. We've done some early stage fintech investments, which are too early to say whether they will succeed. We very much hope they will. We invest in many other things as well, as long as they're kind of like venture grade, not even necessarily software. What I think is very exciting about Bulgaria, the biggest excitement I think in this particular field is to have companies like Payhawk. I think Hristo and his team and what they're doing, they're trailblazing in a way that will have so many significant developments in its wake. To have such a large, successful at this stage already player in a country basically unlocks so many opportunities. It attracts people to get into fintech. There are hundreds of people that are building experience now working in a company like Payhawk, which at some point some of these people will go and create their own businesses. They will learn things about the industry very much the same way that Hristo and his co-founders did that at Telerik, the quarter unicorn and Bulgaria's previous big success story where they incubated as a team or as individuals even. So this is, I think, what's really exciting. The big thing that the other part, and it's kind of connected, it's different stages of the same story, but the cool thing about Bulgaria is that we've been definitely comparing to the rest of the region, Southeastern Europe, the Balkans region, we've been quite good in allocating funds for venture capital investments. This is both on the private side, as angels, as I think the first VC fund in the region was a private fund, which was set up about 15, 16 years ago in Sofia. This was before, EU programs started, putting money in venture capital programs. Then after that, Bulgaria was one of the first countries where EU funds were used for creating small early stage seed venture capital instruments. And that's an approach that's been working and that has now been expanded to other countries. So we've been very lucky with funding. And that gave us, I think, a head start as well to basically have this large community of, probably 20,000 people right now that are actively building startups, part of which are fintech companies.
Nice. Okay. So it sounds like there's definitely, I guess, one ingredient in the secret sauce is, the funding that's available. I want to take a step back and think about, some of the companies, some of the fintechs that are coming out of Bulgaria at the moment. Would you say they're mostly kind of focused on the domestic market? So do you start servicing for Bulgarian customers, or is the kind of vision more, okay, let's launch maybe like regionally in the Balkans, or let's go Europe, let's go global? Or would you say it's kind of more of a trend towards B2B, kind of providing services for tech companies, banks? I know there's a few companies in the crypto space there that are working more kind of on the B2B side of things. So Hristo, let's start off with you. How did you kind of come up with who you're going to target and where they will be based?
Well, I think on our side, we started with a lot of validation. So our first idea was, let's focus on subscription management. And that was our first kind of 7 days sprint that we did and trying to sell that. And initially we started approaching these two companies that are based in the US, Canada, Europe, everywhere. But as we started, narrowing down the problem we're going to solve, and we realized that physical cards are a much bigger problem for companies, and that they managing subscription is just one part, but managing company cards for employees that are constantly traveling and spending company funds is a much bigger problem because of lack of control, really big paperwork that comes with them. We realized that we need to narrow down and focus on those multinational companies that are scaling across countries. And one of the good things we identified was that it would be really important for us to focus on those companies that are based in Western Europe that do have also entities across let's say other states within the European Union. And at the end of the day, because Bulgaria is a very small market, we decided that obviously we are going to have very limited footprint targeting companies in Bulgaria that they have offices outside of Bulgaria. So we would rather go and focus on Western Europe. And that forced us to be very international from day one. And I think that was one of the key things about Payhawk compared to some, let's say, other competitive, let's say other players in the same space where they actually had a very different journey. So all of them went and became, let's say, dominant players or large players in their local markets. And then we started trying to build international presence when we were international from day one. And we managed to build something that is truly pan-European, which was a very big difference. And if we were not based in, let's say, a market like Bulgaria, which wasn't kind of a very large market on its own for us, we would have never been forced to go and build this kind of a strategy in terms of go-to-market.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And I guess, Valentin, from your perspective, what are you seeing in the fintech scene? And I guess, are you seeing like increasing appetite for European companies to set up operations in Bulgaria?
Well, as far as my experience goes, all the companies that we communicate with, they have the ambition to grow global. So they start locally, but they develop their technologies with the idea of going global. So that is my impression. At the moment, I think we have around 135 fintech companies according to the reports, 11 of which are payment institutions, and we have around 8 e-money institutions. And we see also increasing interest of foreign companies, fintech companies settling in Bulgaria. We have also a large interest of individuals coming to Bulgaria and working from here, developing and realizing their ideas. Probably this is because of the really beneficial and welcoming environment we have created for such companies, for such individuals, both as a regulatory framework, both as a taxation framework. Our taxes here are very beneficial, both for companies and for individuals. They're fixed at 10% fixed. So there are a lot of components and a lot of factors that actually attract also foreign fintech companies and individuals to Bulgaria. Of course, our ambition is to grow this ecosystem and to make it more and more beneficial and welcoming, and to become a hub at one point.
Okay, makes sense. And I guess, Max, from your perspective, I mean, kind of building upon what Hristo said, with some of the firms that you're looking at, is it kind of, do you think that the path to success is focusing, going international first, or do you see kind of the market being sized well enough that you can focus first on Bulgaria?
I mean, look, Chris was absolutely right. I think this is, the big benefit of any small country. Bulgaria is by all means a small country. We have some land that is beautiful, but quite empty though, mountains, seaside, and all that. But we just did a census a few months ago, a national census that happens every 10 years, and we're 6.5, I think, million people, and among the the less rich in the European Union. So it's a very small market, right? It's a very small market, and I think that with the abundance of engineering skills that we have, and again, coming back to my previous point, the abundance of venture capital, both private and institutional, all across, but we have approximately 12, I think 11 or 12, if you depending on how you count the stages of how active they are, venture capital funds in the country. We have several quite, active formal and informal angel investor networks. So there's actually quite a lot of funding for a relatively small amount of people. So it's logical for people to go build global solutions, especially given the fact that the market is small. Valentin actually also made a really cool point. There is a lot of I would say, above average number of fintech outsourcing from big players, global players happening in Bulgaria. Just to give an example, Uber does their entire payment solution in Bulgaria. So whenever you pay for an Uber ride, that was probably coded by an engineering team in Sofia. They have a few hundred people working there. There is one of the big neobanks, European ones, has their main tech base in Sofia, and we see more and more of this. And this is obviously, this is again a huge amount of talent that is local, that is learning to build global products, whether with homegrown success stories like Payhawk or with these foreign companies that have their development in Bulgaria. And I think that you go global because we invest very early stage, so we invest sometimes in companies that use Bulgaria as a some kind of testing ground, like to see if just if some basic assumptions work. But you can't really make money. It doesn't really make sense to spend your effort on building something just for the Bulgarian market most of the time. There probably are exceptions, but give or take, that's the rule, I think.
And I mean, I guess it sounds like the tech and the kind of VC community is certainly growing. Like, how tight-knit is the community, would you say? Because I remember back in London in 2016, 2017, I mean, it was a very small, close-knit fintech and tech community, a lot of idea sharing and everything. Yeah. Is it like that in Sofia, or is it still quite fragmented?
I wouldn't still divide it by fintech and the rest of the community. I think we are still one bunch of community around startups, and it is concentrated in mostly around some of the early stage funds, which are kind of making the connections and investing in making sure a lot of the companies are also dog fooding and using their own products, which I think is quite essential because I think one key area for early stage companies, and this is something that we try to do with Payhawk, is you really need to try to use as much as possible from those early stage companies and provide as much as possible as feedback to them, because sometimes this is even more important than getting capital. You need to have these kind of early customers who are trying to put on use of your technology at scale and feed you back feedback, what works, what doesn't work, so that you can actually have a chance to improve it. And sometimes that is even better than providing them with capital. Providing them with trust that they're building something that is valuable and trying to put that in effect is key. So I would say, to me, it looks like a tight community, but happy to hear what the rest of the team is going to say.
Yeah, maybe I'll jump in here. I mean, I fully agree with Hristo. I think that actually the comparison with London in 2017, I think, in terms of numbers, we're still small. But then again, for a country like Bulgaria, it's a sizable community. Like if you look to neighboring countries, especially if you look at per capita, we have definitely an outsized founder and investor communities, and that's something that we can only be proud of. Everybody knows each other. It's still early days. Much like Hristo said, like the funds. I'm one of these people who run funds. We try to make the connections. We basically all know each other. Going back from previous either investment roles or company roles we've done before. So it's a very friendly kind of informal network. And I think the big influx that I'm personally waiting for is for more people from outside Bulgaria to actually start coming and joining us and building companies locally. Much like Valentin said, it's a great country that to move your operations to. It's great quality of life, really nice tax regime as long as it lasts. But that's something I can talk more about. So definitely that's what I'm looking forward to. I think we're ready for this place where London was 10 years ago. Obviously, it's a global city, difficult to compare, but to become a place where people come to realize their aspirations, and I hope that that's coming soon.
Great.
I could add a few other aspects. It's also Bulgaria is one of the countries where actually the startup expenses are very low, and it's quite cheap and less riskier to start a company and to maintain a company in Bulgaria compared to other companies. Also, recently there was a study with respect to the employers' expenses for qualified workers Again, they're a little bit lower compared to other companies. But what is interesting is that the ratio of the net income of the qualified individuals towards the total expense is quite high. So actually, this is due to the system. Actually, people, qualified individuals, qualified employees, are getting higher net income compared to other companies, to other countries. So.
Yep. Nice. Okay, so I think that leaves us on a good point to wrap up the first part of the episode. When we come back, I want to kind of talk a bit more about the future, specifically, what can be done to maybe get that kind of external talent into Bulgaria, where we see things like, Web3 and crypto, what that scene looks like in Bulgaria, and what the future holds. So stay tuned for a short break, and we will be back very shortly.
Do you want to be part of Breaking Banks Europe? Reach out and learn more about the opportunity to be featured in one of our shows. With over 1.6 million listeners and counting, Breaking Banks Europe is bound to become the place to advance critical dialogue in Europe and the UK fintech scene. Reach out on Instagram or Twitter at Breaking Banks EU, or go to www.provoke.fm.
And welcome back to part 2 of Breaking Banks Europe, episode 121, where we are talking about all things Bulgaria. So focusing on the Bulgarian tech and fintech ecosystem. So in the first part of the episode, we kind of talked about what is making Bulgaria ripe for such a kind of innovative and well-funded ecosystem. And I want to touch a bit more upon kind of this idea of bringing in, external talent into Sofia, into Bulgaria to further enhance the ecosystem. So maybe Valentin, let's start with you. What do you think can be done to bring in, external talent? Is there anything in place at the moment? Any kind of like visa schemes, and maybe where do you see kind of a lot of the talent currently coming into Bulgaria?
I'll be happy if the other participants also share their experience. At the moment, we have a special type of visa, blue chip visa, for qualified individuals from third countries. There are no restrictions with respect to citizens, nationals of the European Union. So in all cases, Bulgaria is quite open. Of course, sometimes there are some regulatory requirements that need to be overcome. This is being done with some professional help. So it's not a big obstacle for foreign individuals, including from outside of the European Union, to come to Bulgaria. What we have seen here is individuals, specialists, experts from all around Europe coming to Bulgaria, attracted for different reasons: the way of life, the cheap and the lower costs, the nice sunny weather. So all kind of reasons. But there, one thing that they share when we speak, when we talk, is they're very happy with and they feel very welcomed and very much at home when they're here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember, I think when I was in Sofia, you can kind of, the mountains are right there, and, you have the sea, the skiing. I mean, I think Sofia is a really, really cool city. Everyone was super welcoming. I think it's certainly an attractive place. Hristo, what's your experience with kind of bringing in outside talent into Bulgaria?
Yeah, I mean, when we were a team of 6-7 people, we had a person from Spain. So I think it is getting to a point where we do see a lot of foreigners coming out of the European Union in Bulgaria, because it is really easy to just, change the location, get a residential permit here and start working for a local company. This is something that we do. In terms of dynamics, we also bring back a lot of, for example, Bulgarians that are coming from abroad, returning back to work in Bulgaria, which is a big stream of our talent strategy. Also, in terms of third countries that are beyond the European Union, we're currently looking into. We just submitted some of our open positions as job board on the Bulgarian job board that was created specifically for people coming from Ukraine. Bulgaria has already hosted about 100,000 refugees from the war with Russia, and this is a place where we can just try to help those people in need and also recruit talent that is outside of the local environment or from within the European Union. So currently there is a lot of initiatives, as Valentin mentioned, the blue chip scheme that allows a fast track of approving people that are coming to work and get a work permit. So this is something that I think is very well welcome, because at Telerik we used to have people coming from the US, for example, or Jordan or other countries, and it took a lot of time to sort out the documents. They had to be renewed every year, and it was a big mess. But right now we are at the stage where I think we are opening a lot more, and as you said, there are a lot of perks in Bulgaria. So in terms of a cost of living, they're extremely low, and we do have also a lot of employees that are coming here as part of the company from other offices, and they're like, oh, maybe I can come for like 3-4 months or something long term, because of the quality of life. So this is something that we definitely can have a lot to offer to people traveling and willing to explore different regions.
If I could add something, it's also quite easy to start a company. So the expenses for the incorporations are very low, the maintenance is quite low, and there are no restrictions with respect to the nationality of the shareholder or the managers. And there are no requirements to have a local shareholder, local partner, or local manager, unlike other countries.
I think the tax rate, we briefly mentioned that, but it is literally 10% flat. Which this is for both corporate tax and for personal tax as well, and this is something that I hear a lot of people being envy about when they hear how our tax system works.
Also, to add, we have a 5% tax also on the dividends. So if you receive dividends from as an individual, from a foreign countries, for a foreign companies or a local company, it's 5%. And if you distribute dividends from a Bulgarian company to its corporate shareholders, for example, in the European Union, there is no withholding tax, which is also a great benefit when you're trying to figure out the entire structure of your entire investment.
Hristo and Val gave us all these tremendous selling points, which are absolutely true. All I can say is I'm an empirical example myself. I'm not Bulgarian by origin or by birth. I'm Bulgarian by choice, as I like to say, and I've moved to the country myself 11 years ago now, and very much feel local and feel very welcome. And all the things that the guys have said, they're absolutely true. We have great quality of life. Friendly taxes, which it's a whole separate discussion whether they should go up or not. I personally definitely think they should go up, but in a sustained way. There are a lot of jobs. There are a lot of jobs in Bulgaria. It's not even only in the tech sector, but the country really has more work. It's growing faster than the local population can actually satisfy the demand for work. So there's a lot of work. And also in the tech sector, obviously, with so many funds and so many startups operating. So I just, I'm looking forward to that moment where, we can compare ourselves to places like Estonia, which, in many ways, Estonia isn't as friendly a country to come and live in, weather-wise, culture-wise, language-wise, food-wise. But there's a lot of work. There's a lot of talent, growth opportunity. There's a lot of companies. I think Estonia has something like 7 of these so-called unicorns. Once we get to that point, I hope we will also have as diverse a workforce as they have over there.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally, if I had no offense to anyone in Estonia, but I would probably choose Bulgaria over Estonia. I mean, again, I've been to Sofia a few times and it's amazing. Great food, great wine. Everyone's so friendly everywhere you go. And yeah. So kind of, do you see any kind of like clusters of tech companies? Would you say there's like a broad spectrum in terms of the types of products and services offered? Are you seeing kind of like a cluster around like crypto payments, anything in particular? Do you kind of see like, 5 years down the line, will Bulgaria be a specialist in X? What are you seeing anything, Max, or?
It's hard for me to say. Like, I see all kinds of things. There is, in terms of like specifically fintech, I also probably don't have enough experience with it to be able to like very clearly pinpoint. So I think Hristo here and probably Val also with his experience could give a better overview. There's definitely, the crypto blockchain space is definitely big. It's probably big everywhere, but I do think that there are a couple of large players that are either in Bulgaria or very active in Bulgaria. So that definitely has there's definitely an angle there. It's actually a topic in a domain that I know very little about. So I've never done anything with blockchain or crypto. I've never held crypto myself. So I only know a little bit about it, but don't really understand it. So as far as I'm concerned, I think I see a generic playing field.
Yep.
And I see all kinds of projects coming up, both the ones that pitched our fund and the ones that I see in the community. But I wouldn't. I'm not probably the right person to give a drawdown within the fintech space of what's going on.
Okay, gotcha. Hristo, Valentin, what are you seeing, if anything, in terms of clusters, or would you agree that it's kind of a broad playing field?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say that. We are still at the stage where we can divide them on clusters. I think fintech on one side has, a few companies that have started pushing in that space. And I think that's not specific to Bulgaria because the main drive there is, first of all, the regulation that it's synchronized very well, especially with the Payment Services Directive, second division from 2016. So that synchronized a lot of the law. And then what happens on top of that is a lot of infrastructure players, where it's banking as a service or card processors or card manufacturers or other players that are important to that space. They started building this infrastructure in a very horizontal way. So we started seeing a lot more fintech in general. And I think that's true as well in Bulgaria. For example, if you look at the companies that do have electronic money institution licenses, they do have, let's say, in their orbit, 4, 5, 6 companies. They are also part of the FinTech Association and so on. So I think having more and more success stories is going to definitely bring domain knowledge for the industry and allow us to go and have more of those. But still, I think it's kind of a level playing field. We do see a lot of also enterprise SaaS companies being focused on, I don't think we do see a lot consumer. Mostly, I guess this is a function because of the local market. It's a little bit hard to go and create a consumer that's going to go beyond the borders of Bulgaria. This is how I would summarize the market: mostly B2B, enterprise, and some fintech here and there.
Now, recently, especially after the adoption of the crowdfinancing regulation, I know at least several companies, several platforms that are being developed for crowdfinancing at the moment. So this legislation and regulatory developments also stimulate the fintech companies and development as well.
Cool. And I just want to, I think we definitely touched upon why Bulgaria is such an attractive market, and kind of the perks of setting up and living and working in Bulgaria. What are some of the challenges that you would say need to be overcome in the next 5 years to really make the bigger than Estonia kind of a hub for tech within Europe? I'll open it up to the guests, whoever wants to kick off.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I can do that. I think that in Bulgaria, the biggest challenge is still bureaucracy. Now, there's a lot of work happening to improve that, but at the same time, Bulgaria is still very, very, very backward when it comes to the way public bodies operate. Bulgaria, unlike most Eastern European countries that kind of emerged from communism or from the socialist era, hasn't really reformed much or at all, to be honest. from the communist days. So a lot of the processes, a lot of the institutions, a lot of the way things work are still either directly from those times or still heavily influenced by the way things used to be. There is a lot of change now. We have a government in place that is, that has basically as its number one focus to change this and also to bring in electronic governance and e-government, which is very challenging in Bulgaria, but they're working on this. So this, the red tape, the bureaucracy, that's one thing that is a critical challenge for many things. It's being worked on, and I think that it depends on that success on how successful that move is to do away with the bureaucracy, to streamline processes. A lot of of our potential in the future depends on that.
Hristo, from your perspective, challenges to overcome?
I think challenges to overcome is mostly related to financing that go beyond $5 million US. I think getting from 5 to 10 to 15 stages, this is kind of I would say the challenge, and that is where we do have a lot of, let's say, pre-seed and seed funds and some Series A funds now available in Bulgaria, but getting them to Series B, Series C from Western investors is kind of, I think, the challenge, and that comes with the fact that typically a lot of those investors that are on the growth stage haven't been looking at Bulgaria as a region, but that starts to change now. And hopefully, we're going to collectively be able to bring a lot more from those investors to be able to carry, the work that the initial funds have done in terms of, being able to see those companies and get them to a product market fit, get them to have an initial impact on the market, and then have somebody who can actually have, invest into the growth of those companies beyond the initial capital. I think that's one of the challenges. Another challenge might be related to the talent available in the country. So I think that is something that we are already seeing in Bulgaria for the last 10-12 years. There has been a lot of academies that are being focused on training engineers and people to join the sector. That is one thing that we are seeing as a kind of a challenge. And then I would say the third thing in general for the whole, let's say, IT sector is really moving away from professional services as the economy is growing, as the standard of living is increasing, getting away from this kind of I call it the body leasing business to more of a product building, high impact, high value, and products with a lot of just products, right? This kind of a shift from services to product is another challenge we're going to see in the ecosystem. So I think this is kind of the three things I would characterize as the main things we need to deal with as a sector.
I will agree with both with Hristo and with Max. Where really there is a lack of talent and people, and that really impedes the opportunities for growth. There is a lot of work, but not enough people. And the second one, what Max said, is also absolutely true. It's sometimes we're overregulated or the bureaucracy is too high, especially with respect to payment institutions, money institutions. The requirements of the local authorities are even higher than for example, EU authorities within other EU countries. But still, this could be overcome. I think the biggest challenge for us is to create, through the legislation, really environment that allows and makes it easy for businesses to thrive, to grow, and to explode globally.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing. So it sounds like a little bit kind of on the, investment side of things, trying to help, take that investment to the next level once you're past, 5, 10, 15, getting rid of bureaucracy, which I think is a lot of European countries are definitely plagued with that. And yeah, just bringing in the talent. But I think from everything we've talked about in the past, in the last 60 minutes, I think it definitely sounds like a fantastic place to be, a fantastic place to be living, to be setting up operations, to be thinking about, starting a business, scaling up a business. So yeah, I think it's, definitely a market to watch. And yeah, I'd like to wrap up by thanking all my guests so much. Thank you for sharing your insights and promoting such a really cool and fun place. So I hope that our listeners, get inspired to check out what's happening in the Bulgarian ecosystem and to get in touch with our guests should they have any questions. So Hristo, Valentin, and Max, thank you so much again for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Breaking Banks Europe, a Provoke Media podcast in cooperation with FinTech Stage. Don't forget to tweet us out, shout out, or post to the team at Breaking Banks EU on Twitter. If there's something or someone you'd like to hear on our cast, let us know. See you next week on Breaking Banks Europe.